Welcome to the fifth in our series of AI, an introduction to AI for designers. We start every session with an inspirational artist or designer. Today, we have Weidi Zhang with us, who is a exquisitely beautiful designer, exquisitely beautiful videos and interactive installations. Weidi is from China, from Shanghai originally. She's been studying in the States. She completed her PhD at the University of California, Santa Barbara, and is currently a assistant professor at the University of Arizona, and she shares her time between Phoenix and Los Angeles. Weidi is here with me. Maybe you could just quickly say hello. We'll have a couple of videos by Weidi, but it would be good just to sort of to get to say hello.
Yeah, hello everybody. It's a super honor and great pleasure to be featured in today's session, and super excited about all the tutorials today, and great to meet you.
Okay, so we're going to play just two short videos, one general introduction to Weidi's work, and then one particular project, the Kanji poetry project. So I'm going to switch off my video now, and here we go.
I'm Weidi Zhang. I am a new media designer, artist, educator based in Phoenix and Los Angeles. I design interactive immersive experiences through a generative approach. I co-create and co-author with machines and audiences to make the immersive experience dynamic and ever-evolving. I collect data and design AI systems to transform it into new materials, forms, and aesthetic in the virtual space. I implement different algorithms for organizing and categorizing layers and parts of the systems and its composition. I embrace chance and choice operation, highlighting the uncertainty of machine learning algorithms for poetic yet indeterminate visualizations. The future is inherently unknowable. What future might emerge, what kinds of poetic vectors might be possible from the historical nodes? How can we create a critical future ideation that will make an impact through art and design? My practices transform image-making process into immersive experiences through layers of processing that combines automation with artistic originality. I design AI systems to encode unstructured information to data, from data to cultural artifacts, to build a liquid network, to build a culture that blends human and computer meanings. It is a great pleasure to share with you one of my artificial intelligence work, Cang's Poetry. It is in collaboration with computer scientist Dong Haoren from 2020 to 2021. This work is an immersive data visualization of a semantic human-machine reality. Cang's poetry starts with a very conceptual design question. If artificial intelligence can imitate human beings to create a symbolic system and to communicate based on their understanding of the universe and begin to actively interact with us, how would this redefine the coexistence between humans and machines? Our inspiration comes from Chinese folklore of a legendary historian whose name is Cang. who has been considered as the person who invented Chinese characters based on everything on the earth. We chose Chinese characters as our inspiration because it is one of the oldest logographic systems, which means Chinese characters were built upon the appearance of the real-world objects. I want to briefly share the stories of how Cangjie created Chinese characters 1,000 years ago. One day, Cangjie was struggling creating those characters until he saw a phoenix drop an object with a special hoof print that he could not recognize. A hunter passed by and told him that it was a hoof print of a pixiu, a Chinese mythical hybrid creature whose hoof print is unique. Cangjie suddenly realized that it would be a perfect prototype for a reading system if he could create unique symbols that set apart everything on the earth. We artistically imagine the future language. Suppose if artificial intelligence can create a language based on their observation of everything on the earth, just like Cangjie did 1,000 years ago, how will this influence on the future communication between humans and machines? Therefore, we train an AI system that we call Cangjie to learn the constructions and principles of over 9,000 Chinese characters. After successfully learning, Cangjie can interpret the real-time live streaming images through the lens of Chinese characters and produce the brand new symbols constructed by Chinese strokes. We implement a computer vision system to simultaneously generate descriptive sentences of salient regions of the live streaming images to make meanings for those new symbols conceptually and aesthetically. In art installation, the Cangjie system constantly capturing the surrounding environments using a camera and transforming the live streaming video into a cluster of ever-changing new symbols in real time. Those new symbols are further visualized algorithmically as an ever-evolving landscape, which using the pixels of live streaming video to write the new symbols in real time. We project this landscape as the first projection in the space. Meanwhile, Cangjie also generates descriptive sentences of surrounding environments based on its own interpretation. Those sentences are designed as the poetry written in ink visual simulations, assembled with the real-time captured imagery fragments as the second projection in the installation space. Cangjie's poetry constructs a conceptual prototype for future language that reflects on the ancient truths. I think that's the way to evoke enchantment in the artificial intelligence era and emphasize the tensions between the humans and machines. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Weidi. That was exquisitely beautiful, and what a wonderful way to start our next session. I'm just showing you the overall series itself. We're on our fourth tutorial, the fifth session overall. We have another tutorial next week, followed by the Pechakucha session, and then we're going to end up with the kind of grand finale, where we're bringing in some leading designers to talk about the impact of AI on the future of design itself. Today, so today's session, then we have Bruno Vianna, Arturo Tedeschi, and Wei Wu. We have our final session next week, on tutorial next week, and then, as you can see, the Pechakucha, and then the roundtable discussion. Everything is these days, in terms of AI, is uploaded onto Instagram pretty much. Here, I'm showing you the Instagram accounts of our featured artists, Weidi Zhang, Arturo Tedeschi. Bruno Vianna has a website you can consult. Wei Wu is here. Then I'd also emphasize that down here we have the YouTube library of a repository of all our previous sessions, the DigitalFutures YouTube library, where everything is uploaded and is accessible for free. We're trying to share not only information about the world, but also our passion for design itself. And finally, also the Instagram account for DigitalFutures and myself, where we are constantly updating and giving information about what is happening from week to week. So maybe take a screen capture of that if you want to go and follow up on this. So today we have we're very privileged to have a very distinguished lineup in terms of our tutors. Let's start off with Arturo Tedeschi, who actually really needs no introduction in terms of the computational world of architecture. Arturo is one of the pioneers and has a huge name. He has consulted for Zaha, for Ross Lovegrove, and many others. And he is, most of all, he's famous as the author of the hugely influential book Algorithms Aided Design, which remains one of the standard works. He is currently based in Milano, but he's soon moving to Dubai. We also have today Bruno Vianna, who is from Brazil. He's a doctoral candidate at the University of the Arts in Helsinki in Finland, where he works on visual arts and artificial intelligence. But he's currently based in Barcelona, where he's also the director of the Masters in Creative Computing at the Elisava Design School. And finally, we have Wei Wu, who is an award-winning designer and creative technologist working on computational expression, interactive narrative performance. Originally trained as an architect in China, she is a graduate of Harvard GSD and is currently based in Cambridge, Massachusetts. So let me unshare my screen and hand over to Arturo. Arturo, it's great to see you. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Neil. Thanks for the invitation, first of all. It's a really great honor to be with you guys today. And well, I have to say something that I actually realized that so many people think I'm one of the new kids on the block, actually, even if, as you said, I started really many years ago. And well, today I want to do this kind of overview on how to connect Grasshopper with ChatGPT. Actually, this will be a discussion more from an educator point of view, not as a designer, I would say. Let me share the screen. First of all, I want to tell something about what I'm doing right now. Okay. So as I was saying, first of all, well, I started working in computational design more or less 15 years ago, and you know, exploring different tools and methodologies from algorithms, aided design to virtual reality. And my activity is mainly focused in offering computational design services for companies and other industries. And I had the chance to work in different fields like automotive, furniture, also software development, architecture, art installation also. And I'm also consider myself a kind of independent researcher, and I published 3 books. The first 2 ones were the first one was written actually in Italian, called Architettura Parametrica, and then it was translated into parametric architecture. And finally, AD, published in 2014, is still likely considered one of the reference book on algorithmic design using Grasshopper. And well, Grasshopper is, I consider Grasshopper the extension of my hands. I use it, you know, on a daily basis on different projects for research. I organized and directed several events to teach Grasshopper, and again, is really an extension of our hands. Of course, I also started using text-to-image generator tools like Midjourney, DALL-E. I actually started with StyleGAN a couple of years ago, but really Midjourney ended to be one of the main tool in my way to explore the possibility to invent new shapes to as a new extension of my, you know, daily tools. And I didn't use at the beginning as a way to express a new style or to define a kind of, a new methodology. But basically, I wanted to understand how to control it in order to be a kind of scientific tool, not only a way to speed up the process of generating synthetic images. So since June, July, I really try to control the software, to manipulate the parameters, to master the parameters in order to get exactly what I want to get. Here you can see different things from, images of people or design products, interior design, facades, automotive, music instruments, furniture. The common thread for me is really trying to get what is in my mind. AI tools represent a great potential nowadays to create a direct link from, a link between our brain, what is possible for us to imagine, and having a quick way to materialize them as a bunch of pixels at the precise moment. And again, different objects, different scales, material simulations, and effects. I also started to test the latest version of Midjourney, the version 5. In the middle, the central image actually shows one of the latest research I'm doing about interior design using the new version that is really great in terms of material rendering, for example. And actually, we lived, the last week was great because Midjourney 5 and GPT-4, they went out and they both led some kind of new great innovation. I also try to explore, and actually my dream as a 3D modeler is also trying to have this kind of bridge between, text and 3D. This is some example of Point E, a tool developed by OpenAI that enables us to generate rough 3D models, or to be precise, point clouds, starting from prompt in natural language, and of course ChatGPT. And it's one of the most incredible videos that probably is out there is a recent expression that we can find, and the possibility to maybe sketch on a napkin basic layout of a website, and with the latest version it is possible to translate that into a JavaScript or HTML code and creating, for example, a website. Even if this function is not still available for public, even if you are a subscriber of the Plus version of GPT-4, I mean, I was really curious about this possibility to create a translation, from a bridge between a chatbot and a tool like Grasshopper. And again, mainly as a tutor, I'm really interested in something like that. And I guess that we are really experiencing a paradigm shift somehow, because this is a metaphor, what you can see in the screen on the screen right now. We are actually moving from this kind of analytical thinking that we had, that can be expressed by a keyhole. Nowadays, or in the past, if we wanted to solve a problem, metaphorically represented by the keyhole, we had to create a precise key that fits that hole. So we needed to have a kind of analytical approach to solve the problem. With AI tools, we are moving towards a different dimension, where AI generator images or 3Ds in the close future, they will be able to generate millions of different keys, and one will be the right one. So we are really moving from this analytical to synthetic approach, and that's really, it will change everything. So probably what we are going to see now, which is this first attempt to create a bridge between the two worlds, and a chatbot and a algorithmic modeling software, it's probably just something transitory, something that will be interesting, again, mainly from a kind of research point of view. But let's start by opening, let's see what happens if we run ChatGPT and we try to ask if he knows what Grasshopper 3D is. So if we go to GPT 3 or 4, we can just write something like, do you know what is Grasshopper 3D? And we get a kind of general answer. Yes, Grasshopper 3D is a visual programming language and environment that is integrated into the 3D modeling software Rhinoceros. It allows users to create complex parametric designs and generative art by connecting different components and algorithms in a graphical interface. So ChatGPT knows that Grasshopper is a graphic, it provides a graphic interface to create algorithms rather than, script codes in a traditional way. Grasshopper has become popular among architects, designers, etc., and it is often used in a conjunction with other software such Autodesk Revit, SketchUp, and Unity to create detailed 3D models and immersive experiences. This is probably not 100% true, but is a reasonable description of what Grasshopper does. The next step is probably about and I actually asked, are you able to create Grasshopper algorithms using components? Grasshopper, as you probably know very well, has a visual, as I said, interface allowing user to create algorithms using components. They are like graphic elements that can be connected together. So the answer from GPT is that as an AI language model, I don't have the capability to directly create algorithms or manipulate software interfaces like Grasshopper. However, I can certainly assist you in understanding the concept and principle behind Grasshopper. I mean, there are so many people out there that they are asking me why I don't publish a second book about Grasshopper, AAD2. Probably because now we can use a chatbot like GPT-4 as an instructor, as someone that can assist us in understanding how a tool like Grasshopper works. And indeed, if you see that the last sentence is, if you have any specific questions or problems related to Grasshopper, feel free to ask and I'll do my best to help you out. Now, if we run Grasshopper and if we want to create, basic algorithm, the thing that you are seeing in the script on the screen right now is basic exercises. Is a basic exercise about using the so-called image sampling, meaning that you can start with a set of points, maybe you put circles on top of that, and then use an image and the image brightness in order to control, for example, the dimension of circles that we are going to put on each at each point. Now, Grasshopper works with these visual elements, components, and also parameters. The gray boxes, they express function like dividing surfaces into points, uploading images, creating circles, and then we have those small parameters to control numeric values. Dimension of the original grids, we can change the maybe the radius of each circle, and then using properly, and this is about teaching and learning how to connect properly the different elements together. For example, we can create a simple script, an image sampler generation, without any line of code. Now, let's try to ask GPT to do the same thing. I mean, if we don't know how Grasshopper works, let's try to ask GPT, can you create in Grasshopper Python a circle pattern variable radius starting from an image? Grasshopper has the possibility to use Python inside the specific component. So if you know Python language, but also C# or Visual Basic, for example, you can create codes inside a specific component, and then it can be part of the Grasshopper workflow. So as you see, I ask to create a Grasshopper Python component in order to create an image sampler. And so you can see here the output from ChatGPT. Yes, it is possible to create a circle pattern with variable ready in Grasshopper using Python. Here is an example script that reads an image file and creates a circle pattern based on the image's color values. This is exactly what we want. So we can copy the code. So we come back to the Grasshopper interface, getting rid of all the stuff that is on the Grasshopper canvas and just putting the Python component. Double click. So this is the Grasshopper Python editor. We can delete the text, the code that you can see here, and paste the one coming from ChatGPT. Now, the first important thing that you can see is that every Grasshopper component has input and output. Python script has a output, and as you can see, ChatGPT created a Python script which is specifically written for Grasshopper. That's why you can see this a equal as the last line. So something that we have to do now is like replacing a part. This is not debugging. This is just, manipulation of code. We can use the X parameter in order to create the path file separately here. We can connect it to the X input of the Grasshopper Python, and then we can upload the image like that. So double click again, and we can test if this script works or not. So we get an error, line 21, if I remember, yes. So the great things about ChatGPT is that it can create or perform a debugging. So this line of the code doesn't work in Grasshopper, so we can come back to ChatGPT and we can say, this line in the script seems not working. And so I just paste radius equal and etc. And so we get a very polite message from ChatGPT, which is, I apologize for the confusion. The remap to range function should work in Rhino and Grasshopper, but it looks like it may not be available in the specific version of Rhino Common, etc. In other words, it used actually function which is not in the Grasshopper Python library. So GPT creates a new code that should fix the problem. And then let's try copy code. Then I come back to Grasshopper Python. We paste the updated code, and then I replace that line using X, which means that the Python code now read the file path. And here we go. It looks like a mess, but actually now we can, the script works fine. We just have to play with the parameters right now. So we have a session where you can see define circle parameters, and then we can just play with parameters like the minimum radius, the maximum one, brightness if you like, and then you can directly see the effects on the Rhino environment. For some reason, the image is like rotated. It depends on the UV control of the script, but nothing serious actually. And then, of course, the nice part is even if you don't know Python that well, or if you don't know how to use Python, it's very intuitive how to play with parameters, because the way GPT creates the code is very well organized into session, and you have the precise description of each part of the script. Then we can bake the output of the script, and we can rotate it. And then we got the same result of, the standard way to create algorithms in Grasshopper. That's very brilliant, again, because it we can use GPT as a tutor in order to learn new stuff. I mean, that's a way to learn how to code in Python maybe, or it's just a way to speed up some process. For example, here another example. Can you create a Grasshopper Python again script that output a point grid forming a diamond pattern using curves? So here the script, as you can see, a equal to curves as the last line. So again, this is a Python script specifically created for Grasshopper. Copy and paste again. I mean, this is not rocket science, creating a diamond pattern in Grasshopper. This is something that can be easily done also in using plugin. But again, just a simple script, test. And here we go. This is the output. This is not static. We can play with parameters inside, right inside the script, playing with rows and columns here, spacing. We can change the angle. And again, also, if you don't have any knowledge of Python, it's very easy to interact with the script. And you know, something very interesting that we will probably have in a few weeks, it will be the possibility to use an image as a reference for, this is something that we saw before, you know, the napkin sketch translated into a proper, into a very website. We will be probably able to provide ChatGPT with an image of a pattern, and then we can probably get a code from that. Here, for example, the use of a mathematical equation. You can generate mathematical equation from GPT. You put it inside Grasshopper, and again, playing with parameters, you can manipulate the code and then the output geometry. Something that will be way more complicated to be done, like manually. And then again, Python script can be just a part of a more complex code. As you can see here, we used another plugin, which is called Dendro, in order to create a voxelization. So you start from simple curves and then you thicken them in order to have a precise three-dimensional geometry, as you can see here. And that's something that you can create in a few seconds, you know? And finally, this is a test about GPT-4 that I made a couple of days ago, which is about, for example, creating a Voronoi diagram in Grasshopper using not Python, you know, but by describing the process. This is really incredible because you can see a set of precise steps in order to get a specific geometric output using components. Now, if you really analyze the text, for example, you can see that here, create a rectangular boundary using the rectangle component found under vector plane. This is not true. I mean, sometimes it makes this kind of mistake. So the position of components inside category and subcategories is not correct sometimes. But if you follow exactly this very process, you will get the right results, as you can see in a few seconds. So again, we have a coding capability, we have a debugging capability, and also this kind of tutoring step by step, which is great. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this very quick presentation about this bridging. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Arturo, that was amazing. That was kind of shocking, I've got to say. There were two comments you made, which I thought, first one was transitory, and I thought, of course, everything's transitory now, and by the end of this series, we'll be out of date, right? So we'll need to keep
totally
the series going continuously. It's like painting the Golden Gate Bridge. You get to one end, you've got to start again painting it. That's one thing. But then you made this comment, which I thought was a bit of a bombshell, the GPT as a tutor. And that actually, of course, it makes complete sense. But then you start wondering, well, what role is there for professors or tutors? What role do we have? Because we're normally the people come to for advice. And if you can get that from GPT, from ChatGPT, well, I mean, there are all sorts of implications that go all the way down the line from that. I will just say, because we have a Brazilian here. I was first alerted to this when Angelica was upset that in the World Cup shootout against Croatia, that they hadn't put Neymar, selected him for the first penalty. So she went to ChatGPT for advice on who should take the penalty. And of course, you suddenly think, well, if you get advice on who to take the penalty, then you've got to have advice on absolutely anything. An architect can look for advice, or indeed people can look for advice on architectural issues who aren't architects. So it has an incredibly important knock-on effect that as ChatGPT gets better, and it isn't accurate yet, but as it gets better, so it's going to threaten all sorts of things. So that was a bombshell for me. It was absolutely astonishing. Thanks so much, Arturo.
My pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thanks. It's a great honor to have you here. I think we move on just for the sake of time, and I must apologize to Angelica because I forgot to introduce her right at the beginning. I wanted to go and ask her to do a very, very quick overview of the latest developments in terms of Midjourney and DALL-E, to just make a quick comparison. So can I ask maybe if Arturo could unshare your screen and let Angelica come in and share her screen. And Angelica.
Hi, are you seeing my screen? Hi.
Yes.
Okay. Also, really quick, no problem, Neil. It's a pleasure to be here. And now we come with another short and very quick comparison. Last Saturday was between DALL-E, the old DALL-E, they can say like that, and the DALL-E 2 experimental. And now I use the same slides, but comparing the DALL-E 2 experimental, the beta version that I'm alpha tester, with Midjourney V5, and I use the same prompt. So you can see that the results are very astonishing in the sense that they look so much alike. But I can see, like, I noticed that the colors are a little different than in DALL-E 2, a little bit of bright lights or bright colors. But the amazing thing of Midjourney V5 is the detailing part. It's really, really intricate. You can see, like, when I sent this to Neil, he thought, oh, when you're not going to do the Midjourney V5, yes, I did. That's the ones on the right-hand side, the images. So we can see, like, everything is really, really close now. Maybe here, just to show what the hands is I guess Midjourney is a little bit better in hands, but I don't know, they're coming along together. And the interesting part of this, the puppies here, that it was the puppies playing on a beach, and then Midjourney V5 put them on the beach, and the fur of the puppies are fur of a puppy. I have a puppy, and he looks like that in the beach, and the other one looks like really coming out of the pet shop. But it can understand what is being on a beach, and and here the car, the Fiat 500. So I prefer the image on the left because of the lights, but they're very, very close, and also the open part of the car here, it just put a mat on the top. I didn't understand very well the convertible car. And this is very interesting because when translating to architecture, I did the test with a red cube on top of a blue cube for DALL-E, and it was getting better understanding volumes and positions. And we can see, like, the contemporary house design with 2 wood volumes and a concrete base is very close to what it is correct on the DALL-E 2, but the Midjourney is not quite understanding this identifications. And here again, with 2 volumes, a big wood volume and a small stone volume, DALL-E is almost there, and Midjourney, it's kind of mixing a bit these descriptions. And this, again, the same prompts. And this is like in Chile, and then we can see like DALL-E is more like abstract, not very precise, and Midjourney is getting more intricate in the details. And this is supposed to be a house on the beach in Uruguay, which Midjourney did almost the same from Uruguay and Chile, and DALL-E kind of gets it a little bit different. And this is very impressive because I think they erased the famous architects of the tags, because this is Zaha living in Venice Beach in LA, and they are both horrible, like an earthquake. And just to finish, I put my cow test, which I think is very impressive, because the cow on the road, like a cartoon, what strikes me most is that the positions of the cows and the cameras are mostly the same. So it wonders, how do they do this, or they get the same data set? I don't know, but just to provoke you. And that's it. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Angelica. That was really helpful. Very, very helpful. So let's move on to Bruno. Bruno, also we have a Brazilian takeover today, also from Brazil. Bruno, it's great to see you. You'd like to share your screen?
Thanks, you, Angelica, for the invitation. I'll start sharing my screen. There's always something's got to go wrong at the time we have to do things. Okay, I got it. Okay, so I'm going to be switching between the kind of PowerPoint presentation and the Stable Diffusion interface. My presentation was mini workshop, if you will. It's about like keeping characters in Stable Diffusion, like keeping coherence and consistency. It also has to do with my investigation on representations and diversity within these text-to-image models. So I might be touching this subject a bit. If anyone's like doing kind of a more narrative experiments in using any text-to-image tool, you see that it's very difficult to have the machine generate the same character all the time. You ask for wealthy middle-aged man, you do this auto description, and it end up with like very different people, which on one hand shows how well the system works, but on the other hand, you also want to, if you're working with one character in different situations and scenarios and settings, you would like for the same person to appear always. And there have been some strategies to deal with it. One is like number one easy cheat, just use a celebrity, and this is what was used in one work that was gained some relevance, which is it's a comic book called Zaria of the Dawn, and the author doesn't hide absolutely that she used Zendaya, the actress, as the model for her comic book, so that way she would have consistency every time you asked for Zendaya to be drawn, then you get the same person every time. But then if you're not just doing your own character, you're doing like using an actor that has other people have different expectations and some kind of familiarity with it. But that's a strategy that people have been using as well. Another strategy is like it's kind of the obvious that doesn't always work, which is maintain the same seeds and tweak the prompt until you get so specific that something that the same person is going to appear every time. And the other thing that's working, I'll start to demonstrate this with these prompts now, is to kind of do the kind of genetic experimenting, like mixing different people and seeing, trying to get a unique look from this mix. And this, at least in Stable Diffusion, it kind of works. I'm going to do a small, just a small deviate a little bit from the subject, because I just wanted to let you know that this is all these tests are being run on Colab on a virtual machine, because I really like tweaking things and messing up with the program and being able to change it. I think it's one of the greatest things of that made these models so popular is the fact that Stable Diffusion is release the models and people can mess up with it. So that's what I use. So I don't use very often. I prefer to use to run my own Stable Diffusion. And since the virtual machines at Colab are much better than my home system, and then that's what I do with the to use to do my experiments. And I really like how much control you have of all the settings and everything that you know. So with this trick of mixing people, you start to get some more, a little bit more of consistency. So I use Zendaya again, but mixed with Serena Williams and Oprah. So that's the again with the celebrity approach, but doing it more more specific. And you can see that that the result is like much more. You get people who look like a little bit more. All the results are more similar, and I didn't even ask for this hair, but it comes up like this all the time. And you could, of course, there's more things to be tweaked, but you can see there's a nice direction going on here. Another strategy that someone found this out is like doing this genetic mix-up, but swap the gender of your character. So if you ask it to do like use like male celebrities, but ask it to be drawn as a man, or as a woman, then you got really like an original face that's unique and might it loses the original references and it gets you like a really good unique character. Let me see if something broke. No, everything's good here. Okay, so this is like I used the male celebrities and swap them to female gender, and you can see here that it's really like almost the results look very similar. So that will be really good. I'll just have to like keep using this and changing the settings or the scenario and the expressions, and I could get like into a more personal kind of character. But once you have that, you can there's a fantastic extension called ControlNet. So if you, for instance, if I want to have my character looking at one side or another side, this is not a good example because I'm gonna use the my own camera as a reference. So it should be using like really a male example. Let me change this to to change the ethnicity to, and remove this from. Okay, and then I'm gonna take a picture of me in the pose that I want to the model to do. To look there, and this is the nice thing that once you have your kind of prompt that works and is consistent, then you can begin to control how they're posing, how they're going to be positioned in your image, but with this kind of precision, like having them like really repeat your what the reference that you give them. This takes a little bit of time sometimes because it has to download the model. So let me see if I'm going to give it some time. And of course, maybe this is not going to work so well, but okay, I'll just give it a try because this control net gives you a lot many options. I chose depth, but I could choose just like to for instance to Kenny, which is kind of draws the outline of the image of reference. So maybe if I use this as a reference, then I'm going to get like a mechanic that is looking at this the way I want it to look. Yeah, it's still loading the model, but this is all fine because we have these references from celebrities and people that we can use as a reference. But sometimes the model doesn't doesn't contemplate everything. So not all. If you want to be really more specific, and if you want to do like for instance, an Australian Aboriginal model, you kind of have you don't have a reference for those because they're not there. Sometimes if the model knows what's an Aboriginal, so who are Aboriginal, so you can ask it to redraw give this reference in the way I asked it to make a male version of Zendaya. I can make like an Aboriginal version of any reference that I give to him, but it's not the same as the amount of so now we have the prompt that's following the reference that I gave. It looks really my bird appeared and glasses and in the expression, it's really like really nice to control. You can see it looks really like the same person with the same hair, and you might have to do a little bit of cherry picking, but in general terms, it works really well for consistency. So yeah, and the last part of this is just you can, for instance, you can go to this website, Magic Poser or Blender or whatever you use, and just copy a reference pose, and you can use this here on this little control net window, and it's going to detect it, and you can if you don't want to stand up in front of the camera and do funny positions, you can just use it like a 3D model to do the same, I think, idea. this is also like another strategy is like to ask variations from DALL-E, because you can upload an image and ask to edit image and ask for variations. But I don't think it works the same. I don't think they're like, and also I don't know. For me, the quality sometimes of the eyes and details, it's maybe I'm not used to do the prompting in DALL-E so well. So maybe it needs a little bit more work. Stable Diffusion will also have this kind of variations feature. It's going to be called Reimagine. They just announced it yesterday. Yeah. Okay, so one thing that that I was exploring was exactly this. Sorry. Okay, so I see there are some questions here. Should I? Okay, just
I think we can leave the questions at the end.
At the end, okay.
Going. Yeah.
No problem. Okay, so the last thing that I wanted to explain, to show, is the because I was saying the model sometimes is limited, and they don't know everything. One thing that I think I struggle a lot to represent is Brazilian indigenous people, because it kind of doesn't know exactly what it does. And I thought of a really famous kind of a person that's a lot a great leader and shows up a lot on the internet. I mean, on news sites. It should be like can be captured on the data sets. He's called Raoni, and I tried like in many different text-to-image sites like Midjourney and DALL-E to see if they knew who Raoni was, and I don't get any results at all. I really get some. I found out there's a anime character that's called Raoni, so sometimes I get that. Sometimes I get animals, and with no. This indigenous leader from Brazil never shows up. So the only way that that we can get this kind of a more specific representation for that we miss from the big archive is to train it ourselves. So that's what I wanted to show you. It's a bit of a longer process. So bear with me. I'm just going to show like the highlights of it. I'm not going to be stuck too much into details. But what you do is like there are different strategies for this. That one is called LoRa, which is like a little bit more work. Then there are hyper networks. I'm going to just demonstrate this one, which is called a textual inversion, which doesn't require much time. 2 or 3 hours, you can get like it trained. And what you do is like you start with a set of images from the internet of the subject that you want to explore. So what I did was just went to Go. So any search engine and looked for Kasiki Raoni. So there's endless pictures of him, and I went I just downloaded 16 of these pictures. I think if you have 10 already, it's enough to get it for the system to work. Then you resize it. This is a website that you can, for instance, you just upload the 16 images here. Let me just show it. Then what's nice is that you can choose the framing on every image, and it's going to resize to this standard size of the 520 by 520, and you download it, and then you're ready to go. Once you have that, then there's in the same interface of Stable Diffusion where you do the experiments, the prompting. There's one tab that's meant to, it's called Train, and you can create the embeddings here. Since so you just choose one name, and I'm going to be more specific. I'm going to be like Cacique Raoni, and I want to use 2 because I already did 1, and I don't want to mess up with the one that's there. And just and here's like what's going to be replaced. What are you going to train? It's a person. If that's important, because when you get this working and you use the prompt, this is the you need to use these 2 elements. You need to say that you're going to do Cacique Raoni, and you're going to do a person. It's a person. So when you're going to use this in the prompt when you want for the things to come up. And this is just the number of vectors per token. You just say that's a little bit like half the amount of image that you have, and you say create embedding. And now I have like a file that's .pt, which is where my information is going to be there. Then I have to pre-process the images. The way I work with Colab is that I have the Google Drive connected to Colab. So when I can see here in the Colab, let's say virtual machine, the computer, I have it shows up on my Google Drive. So in my case, I had it updated. I had a folder named Training, Cacique Raoni, and I uploaded the resized images here. Here, all of them. And I didn't mention that, but the other reason I really wanted to try with Raoni is because he has this, of course, this accessory in the mouth. It's like, is the model prepared to see this not so Occidental Western culture of this look? And you're going to see that it does really strange results, but it kind of shows that he still have work to do in terms of representation in these models. But so anyway, what you do is just tell the model in which directory you have your images. It's called training. That's where my image is here. And I'm gonna create another folder here just to. Sorry. So I won't mess up with it. And this is the trick. You have to use blip for caption. What blip does is to look at all the images and try to describe a prompt for them. I'm just gonna show you what I had before on my first try. This is actually not right, because I edited it before. So it's like a man with a big yellow headdress on their head. A man with big nose and big nose ring on his head, and so it looks into every picture and creates like a description of it. But there's some, you have to do some work. Let's see if it's still running, because the way sometimes it's not really perfect. It creates like repetitions, and sometimes it doesn't understand exactly what it's seeing. And one thing that's very important is that, I can make a bit of a zoom here. You have to add captions that for things that the AI doesn't. You don't want the AI to learn. So if there's something else in the picture, like a bird or other people or a background that's like very visible, then you want to describe it, because this is what the AI is not going to learn. What it's going to learn is what we chose here on the create embedding, is just like this person. In fact, I think I used man instead of person in the first try, so maybe it's I should keep with the other prompts. But anyway, just to show you, let me see if we got created things. Huh. Pre-processing finished, but it doesn't show up. Where is it? Yeah, I don't know what happened. It doesn't give me an error message, but it doesn't give me the processed images again. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. I didn't put the correct F. No. Let me see if I get this right now. Pre-processing. Now it found the images, and it's trying to see what's in them and creating this prompt. So one thing that I didn't experiment yet, which I like to try, is like to describe this mouth accessory that they use, so that when I ask to draw around, it doesn't show up. I can control it if it shows up or not. So now you see the images are here, and each image has the description corresponding to it. So I'd have to see it. Sometimes it shows up as a woman, and it's not. You have to change it to a man, and there's a lot of editing that must be done. I'm not going to do this because I already did. So once you have this edited and everything's in place, you can come here and choose the embedding that you just created. In the case, it would be like classic Irani 2. You have to use this learning rates that's directly from the tutorial. And there's some settings, and I can share them if there's any place to send out the PDF file. He asked like for probably 3,000 steps is more than enough, and it saves an image every 100 steps, so you can see what it's looking like. And I think that's it. And then you have to say again, you have to put here the directory to the where the images are stored. And one thing that's very interesting, you have to since it's every 100 steps, it will generate an image based on a prompt. So what you have to do is to it's important to clean up the prompt here, because there's some interface issue that it would use this prompt instead of using the prompt that you want to use for testing, which is the which is this here prompt template. This is, I can show you this file. It's this is a file that just says a photo of name, which is the name of the embedding of in the case here will be Cacique Reone, and the file words will be the file words in the description. So that's it gives it so you can see what's going on. It will generate a picture every step, so you can see if it's working or not. So in the end, then you hit train embedding, and it's going to take a couple of hours, and you can follow the process of it. Just so you can see the previous experiment, you can come here, texture inversion, Cacique Reone, and this is like already in the this is the after 100 steps. It looks a little bit strange, but it keeps getting better. But it really it's able to capture the the face of him, and this even though it doesn't know exactly how to make this mouth accessory, it tries its best. And now I have what I end up with is it's a .pt file. I just copy this. This is after 2,500 steps, and I just copy to the place where the embeddings have to be. Embeddings. So just copy it here. And now it appears on my Stable Diffusion interface. If I click this button, I can see which embeddings I have here. There's one that's called nobody, which is another characters that some other guy did. Style empires is more of a style, and then I also have a Cacique Reone. So if I click here and ask for, let me just make sure of this. Just 1 second. What was a good prompt for him? Oh, maybe it's still pre-processing. Strange. Yeah, the thing with using the software by yourself is that there's always something that might break when you run it. So this shouldn't be stuck here. Let me see if I can get anything at all. Photo of guy man wearing a yellow head dress. Oh, but then it's going to use my face. Let's see if this works, because it's going to have a bear and a glasses. But if it, which is not so good for the model. Let's just see if anything comes up, and I'll try again without the control. Yeah, that doesn't look so good. I just disable this. It's kind of absurd. So now you see that it has a lot of trouble with the mouth thing, but the expression is really like it's right there in even the head, go-car and everything. Yeah. So this is it. This is like a little bit my presentation is like my research on trying to get more diverse representations on Stable Diffusion, and to see if, who's there and who's not, and how to use it in a creative way. Okay.
Bruno, thanks. That was great. I'm just wondering whether we should go for Wei first and then have questions at the end, so that we can get them all in. I think there are some questions in the chat, but could I just maybe ask those who are watching on YouTube to send in their questions, and we can relay them to the speakers. Is that okay? We can go to Wei quickly, and then we'll go back at the end and have all the questions.
Sounds perfect. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Wei, welcome.
Hi, Neil. So it's my turn to share the screen. See it? Is it full screen? Okay.
Yep.
Yep. So my turn is the introduction to architectural photogrammetry workflow, and I have plenty of them. So as we all know, we now have like mobile phones and 3D scanner and drones, all kinds of the tools that we can do the photogrammetry, and also we have videos as like images. And we have like phone applications such as Scaniverse and Capture, all kind of application. And we have PC software such as Agisoft Metashape and the Recap and Pix4D. And now we have another like AI tool called Nerve, and I'll introduce that later. So start from the very beginning, from mobile phone, how we scan a rock with our mobile phones. So it's kind of simple. So we just scan around it, and then we can get a good shape. But the scanning around your phone is good for like small shape. And now for the nerve technique, is also like good for small or to medium objects, such as a toy to like furniture scale. And I want to introduce nerve for a bit. So what is nerve? Nerve is, as we called, the neutral radiance fields. So it's a kind of scene representation, but it is implicit. Why is it implicit? So it is not a point cloud. It is not a mesh. It is not a voxel, but it's actually a representation of density. So the nerve rendering is like every point in the space has a color, and it keep like resampling to reach every point of the color. They have like RGB color. And for the lighting in the nerve system is that the density has a reflection of the light, so that it has like all kinds of lighting. So nerve is actually a new rendering tool rather than, as we say, a photogrammetry tool. And then how we use nerve, we need to know the location of the camera, and that's why I use the nerve camera as we capture checking the location of my camera. So I set it offline and I save every frame of the shape of the location. And then I import them into the Nerve GitHub. And this is what I got. So I can address all kinds of parameters in order to get a good looking mesh. And I can export the mesh at last. But right now, like Nerve is usually like good for small objects. It's not really that good for like big stuff like architecture or like furniture. Yeah, so next up, I'm going to introduce currently what we use, like we usually use for photogrammetry. It's like the PC software, is the Agisoft Metashape and also the recap. So yeah, I just download the Agisoft Metashape, and now we're going to make a photogrammetry of the Harvard Memorial Hall. I want to make a bird view of it. So the first step is that I like to split the video. It is a random YouTube video I just grabbed from YouTube. I split the video into 0.5, and I open Photoshop and I import one of the video into it. In this step, I want to transfer the video into like a photo sequence, lots of photo sequence. So I need to export it to render videos, and I turn the setting into Photoshop image sequence. And then I set the frame rate to 10, and I save somewhere in the file. Yeah, create a new folder. And I check the frame rate into really low, because that's a technique that we don't need to have so many photos, but we need to have like maybe 5 or 6 or like less than 10 very different photos from each other, so that we can generate very different camera location. And then when we have the photo sequence, we can check the photo sequence and we delete the very similar photos. It's like we can delete like tens of them in betweens. And also there is a technique that we can directly take screenshot if you want, just to capture the very obvious photo that we need. And then is now we're going to open, this is Agisoft Metashape. So this is the software that we need. We like to create a bird view photogrammetry. So we check all the bird view photos. This one is all we need. This one is a bird view, and we put it in. So this is the chunk 2. And we check, this is the first art. This is not what we need. And this is a bird view, so we put this group inside too. So now we have 2 chunks. The first step is that we're going to align the photos. We're going to align the cameras actually, so that when we are done with the first step, we're going to have a very rough point cloud. The next step is going to align the point clouds. For this one, that we can have a much denser point cloud that is like more realistic. It's like it's a simulation process. And we are going to combine the chunk 2 with chunk 3, because we are like finally we're going to have one model in total. So we are going to combine them, and then we're going to add the density of the point cloud. And after this process, we're going to have like a realistic point clouds. And after that, we will have like plenty of the point clouds for now. But then the next step is that we're going to make mesh. If we make the mesh for now, the mesh looks like really rough. But we can like optimize it through, firstly, we build the mesh. And then we can recreate the textures. We click the workflow, and then we click build textures. And this step is that we're trying to remap the texture onto the mesh. And after that, now we can have like a very clear build view, as now we can see all the buildings look correct, and the texture are mapping onto it like correctly. So now we have a kind of like decent photogrammetry, like photo scan. If you think that this is just import from a random YouTube video, that is so great, because for this, that our title is like how to scan almost everything. If you have like all kinds of videos that you can download from web, and you can just scan it into 3D models, then you can almost have like every architectural models in the world. So this is a great thing, actually. We can optimize this model in the future maybe, but right now we're all done. So for today, I just want to introduce this kind of 3 skills. And finally, we like to export the model into all kinds of models that you like. You can be OBJ file, or if you like to export it to web AR, it can be GLTF or GLB file. That is also great. Yeah, the GLTF and GLB file is for AR and VR, is for WebGL basically. And the OBJ file is the like most common ones. Yep, and we save it, and we're done with the photogrammetry. So as for today, we have like introducing all kinds of skills from mobile phone to PC applications like Metashape, and the newest tool that is the NERV rendering. So right now, NERV is actually not that really into commercial use, but we're always have a placeholder for it, because NERV is not only a photogrammetry skill, but it's more of a rendering skill. It can control the lighting, it can control the rendering, and that's what we like to see. Maybe in the future, in the very near future, in like 2 or 3 years, that we can map this kind of NERV skills into maybe Metashape or some kind of new photogrammetry software, so that we can have a better experience of photogrammetry. Yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you. That was incredible. It's kind of scary what you can do these days. But I mean, wow. I mean, let's just see how these things develop in the over time, because every day something new's coming out. So we're now inviting questions. I think are there some questions for you, Bruno, in the chat there? I didn't. I think it was mentioned.
I guess Gustavo had some questions. Can you ask Gustavo, please?
Well, yes. Thank you very much, Bruno, and all of our guests, and thank you, Neil and Angelica. Briefly, Bruno, when you were presenting your, I guess, your steps, you talked about the details of hair, glasses, eyes. So specifically, how are you looking at those details when you find a found image? And then how do you categorize and measure success when it comes to the details? Because this is a data-driven model. So are you also adding other photographs that correct those details as well? Or are you waiting for the model and the latest update to do that for you? Can you please comment?
I find that the Stable Diffusion 1.5, even perhaps even more than 2.0 or the 2s, it renders the details really nicely if you have a detailed enough prompt. And the way, as I said, it's data driven, but this is also linking to something that Arturo said. We're not so analytical anymore. We now are much more synthetic. In a way, that's also the issue with the large language models, because they're synthesizing, and sometimes they're coming up with stuff that it's not necessarily true. We know that even Google, in their advertising material, he had like it failed. They had some fake info that was provided by their large language model. So we cannot trust what it comes from there. But on the other hand, for artists, it's amazing, because we don't necessarily, we want things to go wrong and see what happens. So it's much more of a trial and error than an exact science that we're going to have like exact answers from these models. It's not symbolic analytical anymore. Now it's neuro. It comes with an infinity of possibilities. Some are right, some are wrong, some look good, some don't look. So it's really much more of an
Bruno,
experience.
I just wanted to follow up on one more question. When I saw some of your mistakes, they look like fine art to me. They look like you would do collages in different styles. Have you tried to look at this type of work to create your own style? Like when you have, let's say you're building 2 or 3 or 4 styles together, when does it go beyond what you can recognize, and when is it yours? I think that to me is an interesting question when it comes to this tool.
But that's the surprising part, right? That's when you, in a way, we always try to have control what we're doing. I want my character to look exactly like I imagine, and I wanted to be looking in that direction with this pose. And sometimes, like the Rayoni, when I mixed my Rayoni with my face, then it completely hallucinated. That was probably the most interesting result there. And so these models are so prone for experimenting in this kind of messing up things in this way, that I think that's the one of the most fun things to do, is like to provoke the unexpected. Yeah. And
Well,
that's when it's mine.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Bruno, for answering the questions. I thought your presentation was very good and linear. I just had one last question. When you talked about details of hair, there is a movement here in the States about making accurate geometry of different types of hair, of different types of groups, of individuals in the world. So can you also comment on the specificity that you were looking for when it comes to hair, when it comes to, jewelry? Like, Is it
Yeah.
are the models feeling what you're looking for, or is it just that we need to be more proactive and actually contact these developers to have more of an archive of what you're looking for? Can you please comment on that too?
Yeah, I'm doing some research on how Stable Diffusion was trained, and they started with this Leon data set of 5 billion images, but within the 5 billion images, there's like a lot of garbage. So they trained another network just to do a selection and use the pictures which were not ugly to some taste. And then they made a subset which is called lane aesthetics, and that's what Stable Diffusion was first trained on. And but then there's whose taste decided this network that selects the images. It was basically the group of people who were developing and had access to it, to the model. So it's basically Western, white, computer geeks, and it's not representative of the global taste. That's one of the things that concern me. You get, it works because you don't get like ugly pictures in the sense that you mix text and things out of frame and this and that, but still it's not like representative of a diverse view of visual culture, I think. But I'm really curious about this. You said I want to look deeper into this, into the idea of getting good representations of hairstyles, and I think the same thing goes to the jewelry of Indians and the Amazon indigenous people. It's not represented. The model doesn't know how to draw it, and then we need to get everyone in the world represented properly, I think.
Well, thank you very much, Bruno. I think very, very well and very thoughtful answers. I really appreciate it today.
Thank you.
Maybe I could just step in because I thought, today was, it's some really interesting things that's been presented in terms of what was very new and very fresh and so on. And I would actually go to ask, don't put Angelica on the spot, but I thought that this overview of just those simple comparisons of DALL-E and Midjourney was fascinating, and I think I've been playing with the new Midjourney V5, and actually the results weren't so great for me, but I was using prompts from a previous model. Now it strikes me that really the answers are really getting the prompts right, because the prompts shift and change, and the nature of it completely changed. There's been a huge evolution between the early Midjourney, which actually was kind of useful because it was loose in some sense, and it allowed you to iterate and iterate and iterate. And it seems that the more recent Midjourney is kind of more in the line of DALL-E, in a sense. It kind of comes up with a kind of very quick, immediate, finalized answer that you can't do much in terms of iteration as it was in the past. But I'm just wondering whether it's fair to make those direct comparisons. For example, it looks, for example, that DALL-E colors were much more vibrant. But what if you were to put vibrant colors in Midjourney? And it's very difficult to really kind of calibrate and to look at it. On the face of it, given the prompts that you're using, DALL-E did seem to be producing better results, but I seem to me it's all in the prompt itself. I don't know, but I guess that can I just ask you whether your prompts have been evolving over time as these new models come out, or have you kept the same prompts?
Yeah, well, because I've been testing before a lot with DALL-E, because I got in their artist program, I got more trained on doing DALL-E prompts. And then when they put us on this new model, I have to rethink of the prompt engineering again, because the prompt they're not going to work as the same way. So I start doing the comparison that I showed last Saturday, that things are changing. But and now it's with the V5, it's all over again. They said that when they're on their announcement, you have to relearn how to do the prompts. And what I in the group of the Discord group of the people that are alpha testers for DALL-E, maybe it's biased because everybody prefers DALL-E there because they have all this account to work with. But they think that Midjourney always gonna have, they're mostly graphic designers, and they think Midjourney always gonna have this Midjourney style thing. But I don't see that. And what I think that what looks like now to me is like DALL-E is looking more like Midjourney. Midjourney is looking more like DALL-E with the colors, and it's like a horse race. And I guess now Midjourney is a little bit further up on getting things like real. And the interesting thing for artists or architects is not to get the prompt to be exactly what you expect to be in real world, but to get something in between, so you can get more creativity and interpret more things. Like that's when I thought that DALL-E now was getting really more real. And then when I used the same prompts with Midjourney, with the houses, the Midjourney got more detailed on some points. But I prefer DALL-E because of the abstraction of some of the things. So, and they always say that you can always go back and use the previous model. But I think they are like getting into this race to see who looks more real than ever. I don't know. And maybe they have to change this thing, because they keep doing this, and then they put us to test it, and then they see the reactions of the people, so then they can rethink on the models. Because DALL-E 2, the new DALL-E 2 is just a test. They didn't finish it. And maybe that's Midjourney is trying to get into that path, but depending on the reactions, they're gonna maybe changing it. And I really like more DALL-E lights, I don't know, than Midjourney.
Yeah, I mean, I suspect that, I mean, I know to begin with anyway that Midjourney was far more popular than DALL-E because designers could really work with it, but it's kind of deterministic in a way now. And I guess that the main market is not designers. It's kind of, we're a fraction of those, and therefore something else is happening. But let me just raise one. This is really a question for everyone, and that is to say, you know, it's obvious when looking back over the years, when we first got robotic arms, there was a lot of stuff coming about robotic arms, and what you could do with them. But then in some ways it became standard technique. It's a standard construction technique. And it's difficult to know what research you can do into robotic arms itself. It's more to do with the materials and operations that you do yourself. And I'm just wondering whether at some point, you know, with once these platforms reach a certain level, there's not much more you can say about them. Is that a fair thing to say, that it'll become so kind of standard that we won't be?
One thing that is what Bruno's showed today, and last week we also had the Stable Diffusion with ControlNet, because using ControlNet you can really design with the AI. You can change things and you can keep some features if you like. So you can, it is not only the AI doing everything. That's why I like DALL-E a lot at the beginning, because you can do in painting, out painting, so you can work with it. And on Midjourney, you can just do upscaling. But with ControlNet, you can start actually designing with it. I don't know, Bruno, what do you think?
I think it's the ControlNet was really a huge step for Stable Diffusion, because you can fine-tune the scene in so many different ways that I was really surprised, because it makes me always happy, because it's all open source. It's all like people who like to program and code and like it, and then they come up with a solution and publish it, and then when it's suddenly integrated into the interface, it works really well. But I think the other thing is this, what you're saying, that they're competing for different models, for different, you know, my understanding is that Midjourney at some point Midjourney started before Stable Diffusion, and they had a different model. Then they adopted Stable Diffusion. Now they have a model of their own, which is probably based on a lot of the things that were developed around Stable Diffusion. So there's going to be a competition, and I think they are going to be specialized more and more. Like you say, this is the, architects like to use Midjourney, and maybe comic book artists want to use this other one, which is specialized on making poses, and another one's going to be for people who make storyboards for movies and such and such. I don't know.
And you have Runway now. Runway, you can do the
Yeah,
movies
exactly.
on the style of an image. So I've been
Yeah.
trying to. I also got into a Runway testing program. So it's really amazing if you work with movies, and then you just can produce an image in Midjourney, DALL-E, or whatever, even if a photograph that you have, and then this whole video is going to turn into this style. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, maybe, I mean, I think what I was trying to get at is not quite that so much as I mean, I think at some point there'll be nothing special about these techniques. They will be absorbed and taken into the world way we operate. I think now, if you look at robotic fabrication, for example, the really interesting work is coming out from people like Akim Mengiz. You take the robots for granted; they're there. But just going back to this question, I think that the control, I totally agree. Control net is actually a very interesting sort of technique at one level. And I recall showing Tom Main of Morphosis some of the early kind of GAN stuff that we were producing, it looked amazing. It was all this kind of, wow, it's animated, it's doing something, but it was out of control. And he said, well, listen, I'm an architect, I need to control this. And I think, in some ways you can see that actually ControlNet is very, very good. But this is maybe a kind of question for Bruno. But then doesn't it I think before, what was so interesting was the possibilities that were thrown out by Midjourney or DALL-E that you never thought about. But now if you're controlling it, it's more kind of human-centric, the control in a very top-down way, as opposed to bottom-up opening of possibilities. Do you think that's I mean, is that kind of closing down the real potential if you can always, in a manual way, control things?
I think people we're just starting. We don't see. I've been researching AI visual art since I don't know, 5 years or so. So it was around when GANs were starting to be the thing, and then I have the impression that I've seen a lot more artists playing with GANs than with text to image, because in a way it does what you want, and you cannot explore it so much. So it's more, in a way, it's more practical, and it's not so. I'm gonna use the word creative here, but it's not not lightly that I use it. But in a way, I think we're still waiting for those artists that mess up with the model and take it to the limits. We're still waiting for those to come.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I mean, I guess I just want to throw another question out at everyone, in the sense that because this week has been, like every week, it's kind of more amazing than the previous week in a way, and especially with the GPT-4 coming out. And I mean, I think that, all you can do is just wait for all this exploration, because I think one thing that's very clear is you can produce the tool, but what people do with the tool, who knows? And I think it's the combinations that we're seeing, which is really, truly extraordinary. I mean, I was really blown away by what Arturo was doing today, and that's just the beginning, right? And so what do you speculate is going to come out from GPT-4 in terms of the possibilities, especially in terms of kind of use of videos and things? I don't know if Wei would also like to kind of comment on that. What do you think is going to open up in terms of the new possibilities?
You want to?
Wei, I guess, Wei, can you tell us about your impressions?
I don't want to put you on the spot, babe, but just what do you see in the space of the last week? I mean, because you were exploring new techniques the whole time. What do you think is going to come out in terms of what are we going to talk about next week? This is an interesting kind of question.
Yeah, I think we already have like a we have a vision for that. We have a direction, but we always place a placeholder for it. So it will come out. It finally will come out, and we're finally like commercialize it. So we're gonna learn it as far as we can, and we know that we have this kind of directions, and we together we got the final like experience after.
Bruno, what do you think? What do you think is going to emerge in terms of possibilities and new operations and so on?
I wish I say what I wish that appears, and then I hope it becomes a tool. Yeah, I hope we can find new ways of expression and not just, you know, making writing faster emails, and I hope we can people can use it as a different canvas, a different brush, because otherwise it's just automation.
Mm-hmm. No, and I just want to wait. Go.
No, next week we're gonna have George Gila, and he is talking with me about agency, like human agency, how we can, and this for me is the most interesting part, not to have, I think different and maybe than you, that I don't think that I want something ready out and done on manage it. I think that we being part of the process gives a little bit of a humanity to it, and it's not just about control, but it's actually to design is like that. Like you're gonna get new ideas from whatever you see. If before you look at the ArchiDaily, or even before that, looking into pictures or into magazines, or architectural magazines to do your own project, you don't design anything from nothing. You just have all these memories and things on your mind. They're going to put them together and do new designs. So I think this is going to kind of upgrade us to a new way of designing, and it's going to open up more possibilities of the things that we can mix and match and like put as a start point to an idea. And this agency thing is something that interests me a lot. And we're going to have some of that next Saturday with the other presentations about, and also about getting into 3D, which is, I guess this is the next step. How do you really get this into a real, not just we're going to see depth maps and things, but how can you really transform this into a real object that you can build it with the proper documents that you need to do it. I think it's going to come maybe faster than we imagine. And I think the human agency, that's the point, that this further from the machine only 100%.
Maybe I could also ask another question. Well, I mean, you're all kind of teaching or tutoring in a certain way, but I do think that I'm still blown away by Arturo's comment that you could basically use ChatGPT as a tutor. You know, and we're in the situation, right? We're producing these, as I mentioned before, we're producing these tutorials. They'll all be out of date before they finished, right? But then that's a real crisis for education, because who on earth's going to be able to even keep up with this in terms of typical professors in typical schools of architecture? It's just going to be on people. In fact, it seems to sort of kind of say, well, it's going to, you know, you've got to go for advice somewhere else. I mean, it seems to me that there's some real questions about education and how we operate that are on the horizon, which are going to be challenges, shall we say, to the traditional framework. And it is maybe through these platforms getting, you know, really up-to-date experimentation, you know, people exploring things that we can actually spread the ideas, and that really education takes place on kind of YouTube rather than in the classroom. I mean, it seems like there are some really interesting challenges that are facing education in the very near future, if not now already.
I think the secret is not going to be about the answers, but how do you make the questions? Which questions are you going to make? So you can get the answer from the ChatGPT or whatever. Because right now it's getting better, but it still has a lot of flaws and answers that are not correct.
Yeah,
right.
And that much I know. But what I'm saying is basically, fine, you go to ChatGPT, you ask for advice. What's the role of the professor? Is there any role of a professor? I mean, you know, how is education going to change when you get these? I mean, you know, even if you're taught something, it's only relevant for about a few weeks before something else comes along now. So I think there's some huge challenges down the line for education itself. Where you've just graduated from the GSD, so you've just finished your the last part of your education, never going to do a doctorate or anything. What do you see as someone just being educated and how things are evolving? You know, how should the educational establishment really adjust to these new techniques and technologies that are just changing all the time?
Well, I think ChatGPT somehow it will provide a kind of standard answer. So for future, like for professors or like other educators, they will like try to maybe they'll put the answers already in ChatGPT to make them like it's a simulation to the standard. So maybe in the future that AI creates the rules of what is the correct, what is the standard answer, and human just like move back to it. So it's a bit weird.
But maybe I'll just go back to a point that was made by Arturo, who's at IAC and also in Barcelona. And we had this discussion about education a couple of summers ago, and Northern Hemisphere summers. And she was saying, in fact, the general conclusion is there's more information out there on YouTube, on the internet, than any professor knows. So the role of the professor is not as a content provider, you know, but rather a kind of curiosity stimulator. You know, that can, you know, you could suggest certain things, but ChatGPT could be doing that as well. I mean, it seems to me that that there is a real crisis in education potentially. The model that we've got set up that doesn't seem to be nimble enough, to be quick enough, to adaptive enough, to deal with a world that is changing. I mean, the comment I heard the other day was that we're apparently going twice the speed of Moore's law. I don't know if that's correct or not, but it's going pretty fast. How does education keep pace with these changes? Very simple kind of question. Maybe there's no answer.
No, I think that it's just like the internet when it came. And I see it from my students, or maybe the new generations, people, they have so much information to deal with, and then sometimes that's what I was saying before. They don't know what to look for, or which questions they should be making, or what they should choose. And ChatGPT or something like that, it's the same. You just have to get used to it and see how we can get the most out of it. And I think,
but education. And my question is about education.
Yes,
how is education?
I have a lot of colleagues. They are afraid of that. I think you know you have to know how to use it in your behalf to help your students and help you in order to give your classes and lessons. I don't see it as a threat.
Do we even need classes and lessons? I mean, that's my point. It's a fundamental question. The structure of education that we've inherited.
Maybe we're going to change the format.
Is it? Well, I think the whole structure's got to change. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Bruno, what do you think? I mean,
I think Angelica was heading in the right direction there. I mean, when calculators came out, and why were we teaching people how to do additions and operations and such and such? And when you could, you know, look up the capitals of any country and on Google, what do we teach? Geography. I mean, it's weird. Education also has to change. Teachers don't spit out just, you know, things to be memorized anymore. They have to teach people to think and reflect. And school and classes, they're not. You don't go to school just to learn stuff. You know, you go to school because you learn to socialize. You learn how to interact, how to be in the world. I mean, that's you know, outside of your home. I think education it's more than knowledge, let's say.
But let me just take that further, Bruno. I mean, if we don't need calculators, we can, you know, use if now we've got calculators, we don't need to do certain operations like long division or whatever. Okay, so that's not in the curriculum anymore. So let's say you're training an architect, and most of the stuff is now being done by AI. Does the education of an architect or an industrial designer or anyone else that you train in Elisava, does that need to be so long? I mean, that seems to be there are some real fundamental questions that have been raised by these technologies.
Well, yeah, the length of the education, I don't know, there might be consequences. That's caught me for surprise. I didn't think of that. Maybe the length of the education is not so much related to the curriculum, but the time that we need to mature before getting to the society. So let's keep the university 4 years long, but let's study some other stuff, and since we can do certain things much faster. I don't know.
But let's say if you reduce a school of architecture course from 5 years down to 4 years, I mean, let's say you did that. What are the implications of that? I mean, the number of professors would be unemployed to begin with. I just think that if you looked at the consequences of the consequences, down the line, there are some serious issues that are happening, and it seems like the space of learning has been transferred out of the classroom into other arenas, into chats and things, and you can find out more in those areas than you can from any professor. Wei, what about you? What do you think? I mean, I think what is interesting about the GSD, I think there's a group of individuals in the GSD who are working together. And I think there's also a kind of a connection you have with it with MIT, because you can share classes. And it seems that there's a kind of a kind of a different set of discussions that are going on, which are outside of the straight classroom. That's the impression I got. It's a while since I was teaching at the DSD, although you showed my office in your little video. But it's that kind of thing where you get these kind of chat groups happening and communications that's going on outside of the classroom. In fact, this is going on outside the classroom, right? This is a para-educational platform, and I just think that I don't know. But I just that Arturo triggered off a whole bunch of things with his kind of comments today, and I just thought, what are the consequences of that?
Yeah, my thought is that so if we have like more standard AI things to control all kinds of rules, that we might like separate architecture into industrial architecture and more philosophical one. So people are more like into critical thinking, like design theory, rather than the normal like to have architectural skills and all kinds of rules. Maybe they were like separated into half.
Well, maybe I could also just pick up on Bruno's. I didn't ask too many questions today, but I think that the standard view is that, these tools are great. We don't have to spend so much time doing things. We could spend more time doing something else. I mean, Wolf Pricks goes on about the idea, we can go onto some desert island, have a vacation, and so on. But I don't think that's going to be what's going to happen. I think what's going to happen is there's going to be intense competition that starts up. People start undercutting other one. They can do it much quicker and so on. And actually, the financial edge will be the crucial issue. And we're not going to have that luxury of having time to go and study philosophy and things. It's going to be a kind of rather brutal market, and people are going to be cutting down to remain competitive. Is that a cynical view, or maybe it's a cynical view? But
I think this will happen too. This is also going. It's also going to happen. I think there's not just one world with of the corporations, and I think if we can preserve like different. Like the academy is also has a different base of and different demands. So there's not what we have to hope is that not everything's done under the logic of efficiency, of this so-called efficiency of like doing things faster.
I have like one more interesting thought. So people are always like scared of AI taking off their jobs, but maybe like training this kind of large language models of AI actually costs a lot of money. And maybe in the future that normal architects, they're like much cheaper than using AI. So if they're using like real people, they're actually, you are the cheapest labor in the world now. AI is more expensive.
Yeah, I wish that would be the case. So we got a few questions in the chat. Gustavo has pointed some out. I don't know whether Bruno.
There's one question from YouTube.
Yeah. Do you want to read that out, Angelica?
Yeah, I'm trying to open the chat, or maybe Gustavo can help us. Erin, I don't know how to say her name. Okay. Great session as always. Thanks for your time. Sorry, you want to read it?
No, go for it.
You know, actually, I don't think I've seen anybody talk about images inside of transparent images with using this device. Is that something like a chip and a glass pot? What I don't know which from YouTube. What is she referring to, Gustavo? Thank you for making the relevancy factor with the educational base. That platform and its pillar definitely changed face quite often. Probably worded weird, but thank you again for making the point.
Okay.
What else? There was a question before.
I can give a quick reply to Cyrus about the images
Okay.
inside transparent images. There's one of these lower specialized models that you can use in Stable Diffusion that's just for making double exposures, like things transparent within inside other things. And so I can find the link and post it. That's a quick reply.
There was another question, Gustavo. Yeah, can you help
Yeah,
me?
yeah, here it is. This is from Aida Zainali. Excuse me, I have a question. Do artificial intelligent programs know us over time and have the power to adapt to our commands? I mean, that's I'm not sure Neil or anyone else want to feel that. What do they actually learn from you and your commands? I think so, but I don't know.
Well,
Neil?
ChatGPT is always trying to please you.
But what does that mean? Do they record you individually?
I think the answer to that used to be no, it didn't learn, and it was But I've seen hints that it's beginning to know. Bruno, what do you think? Is it learning from us?
Well, the model itself, it's that it stops in time, right? When you ask something recent, it doesn't learn. So when you ask about know us over time, though, I'm sure it can be developed, something like this. It's just that I don't think ChatGPT is tuned for that yet, but it's not. It's really feasible.
Yeah, I mean, we get it, for example, on Gmail. It finishes off the sentences pretty much according to what it knows that the way you express it. So, yeah, so I think the answer to the question is maybe not yet, but it's soon to come, which means probably next week, right?
Neil, I just wanted to follow up with that. What is the value of these systems to learn from us? Like, will they identify you versus a student? Like, will they be taking your prompts as an expert user versus someone else? Like, what is the value of that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure the answer to that. Bruno?
Well, there's a commercial value, right, into getting answers faster. I mean, it anticipates your thoughts if it knows more about you, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking about how these models are learning from us too. So like Arturo Tedeschi, he's an expert user. So wouldn't you, as the person that's making this, focus on his proclivities and make a tool based on that type of understanding of the world? That's where I'm heading to.
I think it's happening at a basic level already, right? Because the beta version is being offered to certain experts, and certainly when DALL-E 2 first came out, people like Vianna were playing it way before others. I mean, now Angelica's on the list of approved users but that's a kind of quite a manual thing. I mean, just Angelica, do they ask for feedback when they allow you to use the tool? Do you give them?
They put us on a Discord, a private Discord channel. So you have like a chat part where you can just talk, another one to share images, and the other one for problems and troubles. So they don't talk to us directly unless you have any problem. And there was somebody that was complaining about it. Or are they going to say something? But they are feeding from our comments. So they will see our images and especially what we point as problems and difficulties. and that's the way it is. That's an exchange. You are given free images to produce, and they receive your feedback to improve the model. That's a give and take thing. Yeah.
I mean, I think certainly on Midjourney you can like an image, and I'm sure they're using that as a kind of technique for of once you register a comment, then they can use it. But it's difficult to know.
Midjourney they give you in Midjourney they give you credits if you have too much likes or things. If you have like an amount, they give you, I don't know how many credits tokens to make free images. So yes, it's like give and takes, like a reward program. The more you get from them.
I have one question for Wei. When you showed your NERF and how you were creating models, how have you adapted your workflow with creating either new point clouds or new models? So what are your research questions when you do this type of experimentation? Because I think there's a difference between the image versus the 3D photogrammetry realm. And I think Weidi does that in her work, using photogrammetry and AI to change and morph shapes. Can you please comment?
I'm like stuck for a while. Sorry, I just heard my name and said AI with, and please repeat the question.
Oh yeah, real quickly. Weidi, the artist that was shown before, uses point cloud data and AI to morph not only shapes but text together into these virtual worlds. How do you see and use the tools of AI in your work and in your research? And please comment how that could be improved in your workflow. Are you looking for computer scientists to collaborate with you? Are you creating the new tools yourself and your research questions? That's pretty much what I was asking.
Yeah. This is a really interesting question because currently my research will focus on how to use photogrammetry in AR as a new tool to rediscover the virtual open space, virtual public space. For example, it's like when you're using AR is like a technique that you transfer, you scan the normal like physical models in the real world, but you transfer into a virtual kind of model, and you can add more information layers onto it. And you can add on some like AI animation, or you use NERF or other technique to make your virtual model like more realistic. Otherwise, you create a new kind of information layers, and that is how you make art. So a new kind of layer is actually it has like more cultural and political meaning. So you and your group of people have the ability to access this kind of information, but others they don't. So there is like a huge possibility for this kind of art. So we have a group of artists that discuss about this kind of AR and AI technique using in like virtual public space. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I think we should try and wrap things up. I mean, this is I think what we've left ourselves with a bunch of questions rather than answers. But I think that's the nature of, with as these tools started evolving and people start playing with them and opening up possibilities. Suddenly we're faced with a future that is looking very, very different to the past that we know about. And I think this is going to be both terrifying but also exciting. I mean, I think that all sorts of things came out of the discussion today. I just want to thank everyone who contributed to Weidi, to Arturo, to Bruno, to Wei, and also and indeed to Angelica for showing this stuff, but to also the team behind it who put this together. It's a long process, so there's a huge amount of organization behind it. It's really been great, and hopefully this will be appreciated by people. I want to just simply kind of just share my screen again to quickly mention just a few things. We have one more session next week, one more tutorial session before going into the Pecha Kucha and the roundtable discussion. And it's going to be Daniel Escobar and George Guida, who's also at the GSD, and then the Pecha Kucha and the roundtable discussion. So here again are the Instagram addresses and Bruno's email website, where everything is going to be shown. I'll simply say that also tomorrow we have another course, the Architecture and Philosophy Doctoral Consortium course, where we will be dealing with Bruno Latour. Albina Yaneva, who collaborated with Bruno Latour and has worked with her extensively, and is the author of Bruno Latour for Architects, will be with us. And I think this promises to be a really, another amazing session. These are uploaded onto our YouTube channel under the Architecture and Philosophy series. So let me maybe just play us out with Weidi.
Neil, just one thing. Sorry, yep. We're gonna have today at 2 hours from now, or a little bit less, at 1:38 EDT, 2 EDT. Lorena Moreira from the Universidade Federal da Bahia giving a tutorial in Portuguese about augmented reality in tutorial.
Okay, thanks. Okay, right. It's fantastic. So we've got a Portuguese tutorial as well.
Neil, here's another plug. Neil's course on the DDES is amazing. Check it out.
Yeah, no, we've had some great sessions. I mean, it's a but Latour is particularly interesting, I know, as an individual. So let's see, and we'll have Donna Haraway down the line and others. It's going to be an interesting course. So let's just play us out with the extraordinary inspirational work that we started with by Weidi Zhang. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.